the Meet the Google Drive. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see so many faces from all over the place as well. I'm loving this Google Meet now. I've been so far on meetings with Congleton, down south in Kent area, and London today with various people. So it's really interesting to be able to get around and just stay at home and do it as well. So the purpose of today's meeting really is to look at how Google Sites can be used more of a central platform. I hesitate sometimes to use the word VLE because some teachers in the past have been very sort of negative towards VLE. The VLE, as you all probably know, is basically just a learning environment, a virtual learning environment where resources can be put and students can then go and interact. The problem in the past, I think, has been that a lot of virtual environments, firstly, have been very costly. So, for example, if you bought something like Moodle, you'd have paid, our school was one of the first schools to adopt Moodle, and we paid close to £18,000 for it to be set up. And then we paid an annual fee of about £5,000 a year after that for it to be maintained. Similarly, if you look at other platforms like that, they're massively expensive. You suddenly have this thing called Google Sites, which in actual fact, if managed correctly, can totally replace what these VLEs would do. Now, the other problem with VLEs was that quite often they become a place where people would just stick a few PowerPoints and bits and pieces that they used, and that was it. And of course, because it wasn't interactive, the students didn't go back to them, didn't really use them. Staff often even forgot what was on there because maybe after one lesson they put it on there for students to actually get to and then forgot about it totally afterwards. And in a way, even though there was a government push at one stage for all schools and colleges to have an online presence, that sort of died a death a little bit. And it went down to a token gesture of, well, as long as you've got a website, you're all right. And unfortunately, it's disappeared. I think now with this COVID-19 happening, people have realized that there's a definite need to have something there for when students are absent, for whatever reason it may be. And this is applicable both to young children, to secondaries, to FE, to wherever, even HE. You have students missing courses for various reasons. And if they have the resources there now, not just a PowerPoint presentation, in fact, or a slideshow, but basically the whole lesson there online ready for them to revisit with assessment materials, then those students don't lose out. And in actual fact, you suddenly find you've got a situation where you've got resources there for students to progress at their own pace. There's a lot, you probably receive these as well, but there's a lot of online courses now from various bodies, usually from the States at the minute, but more and more from this country, where you can basically do these courses online in the comfort of your own home, often free as well for a lot of them, and they're getting very, very professional. And yet at the same time, if a lot of schools and colleges go back to how it was before and try to teach in the same old way, then it's just not going to work anymore because people are getting used to working online. Now, I appreciate there are, and I was reading an article that I sent to Stuart as well, that some parts of the country are struggling with their internet. I think they said there's 60,000 students in one part of the country who basically have got an internet blackout. They can't actually get on to do any learning. So obviously that is something that's got to be taken into account. But as far as it goes, once people start teaching online, you're in a situation where if I teach a group of students, that's fine. I might do a lesson, a video lesson. And again, people are finding now that the video lesson, being able to communicate with people, is no longer the answer to it all, because you suddenly got to start moving your teaching online and how you do that. But once you've got that video lesson, people are thinking, well, I've done a lesson. How do my students know where to go back to carry on and progress from there? Because yes, the lesson was brilliant. We had a lot of interaction going on, and I did a quick forum with them. So I've assessed them. But then the lesson stopped, just like at the end of your classroom, potentially, the lesson when the students walk out your door, but finish your lesson and they don't carry on. So there has to be a way of moving forward. So when things like Moodle were around in the school, I managed that. And the Moodle there became the first point of call for everybody. And that was parents, that was students, that was teachers. They wanted to know something. They went there first of all to have a look, and we kept it updated. Now, we can do exactly the same thing in Google Sites. So what I've done is I've produced what is very, very similar. Now, when you look at this, it does look like it's a school sort of based platform. That's just because it was a nice, easy way to set it up. And you can adapt it however you want to. I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you the sort of thing that we've been basically working on and developing. I know some people who've been on one or two meets with me, I've slightly shown them a little bit of this as we've been going along. But hopefully the common phrase now is, can you see my screen? Hopefully you can all see my screen there. If anybody can at any stage, give me a shout. So this is the vitalized learning area. So this is where Andrew Hartley is going to do his teaching. This is the home page. And on this home page, we have a link to Google Classroom, Google Drive, Calendar, etc. Now, what's useful with these links is, because I'm Andrew Hartley and the computer knows I'm Andrew Hartley because I'm logged in as me, if I click on Google Classroom link, it will take it to my Google Classroom. Similarly, it will go to my Drive, my Calendar, etc. If you were to log on, because it knows who you are, it will take you to your platforms, your areas, your slides, your docs, your keep. So it's personalized to the people who log on. We also have a link to not only a learning area, but to an intranet. And I was saying to Stuart earlier, I was sort of tasked by the head teacher at one stage at our school, and again, this was before Moodle and everything, to try and find an intranet to actually use within the school so we could have teaching resources on there and training on there and so on. And you're looking at about 3,500 for a very basic intranet solution. And then again, we had to find somewhere where it will be hosted. And again, that will link, and I'll show you in a little while, to Google Sites as well, to a different Google site. So the homepage, as you know, if you've used Google Sites, totally customizable. And what's nice about it is it's also very, very easy to make a very professional product. One thing I will say with it is it's so easy to make a professional product. You can get a bit OCD with things, as I'm sure some of you are aware now, and you can actually try to perfect tiny things. The teacher I used to work with, when we used to do things like Google Slides and things like that for lessons, we may spend an hour producing the slides, and then we'd spend maybe another hour finding the right icon just to go in the top left-hand corner that matched. So just be wary of that when you come to use the Google resources. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've obviously got our home page. We'll just ignore the zigs bit a little bit because that links to my site, and I'll take you there in a little while. And I know, again, people have seen that. But if I click on the subject area link, again, something that was very popular on a lot of the VLEs was the little icons to go to different areas. You can use that on the navigation on the front page. If you've got learners who maybe they struggle with their English a little bit, obviously you can do translate on here, but you might decide that you want to use icons instead to navigate, just to give it a bit more visual effect. You can do that. But if we look down the side here, you'll see there in this little drop down all the subject areas. And as I said, this is designed as a sort of secondary school sort of platform, but it's totally customizable. So if you were using it, you might do it in a completely different way on this side, and each one is just linking to a particular page. What I've actually done in here as well is I've actually, in each one of the pages, just given you a few bits of examples of the different Google tools and how they work. So you may see some things in here you've not seen before, but this is a sort of demo of the site, but also how the tools can interact on it. One point on this one, by the way, this particular Google Classroom here, if I click on that, it would link to my art class Google Classroom. And again, you can actually customize it to go to wherever you want. So it wouldn't go to Google Classroom as a whole with all my Google Classroom apps on. It will go to the art one in particular and straight into the art one. So I can jump between the two without having to navigate anywhere else. So this first example there, a little bit of work on there. And this one is a link to, just a nice link to this artwork that this one teacher was doing. Again, this is a Google Sites one. And somebody said to me at one of the training sessions, what examples are there? And this really was what led to the development of the platform. What examples are there of the type of things you can do and type of work? And somebody said, well, if an art teacher, for example, asked me, how can an art teacher interact on a website? What can they use? And this is something that was emailed through to me from one of the trainers when I asked. And this is basically a website that he's produced, which has got pieces of artwork from all around the world, different types of artwork. So that's one sort of use. This second one looks at Google Arts and Culture. And again, I don't know if you know about a lot of these materials, because a lot of Google are very bad at advertising all the things they do. But this then links to different masterpieces, and you can go look at different museums from around the world and so on. So your learners can suddenly travel around. This is one of my favorite ones, and I don't know if you've used this, but this is Google Quick Draw. I won't do drawings on it at the minute, but basically what this does is it will ask you to draw. I will actually do one now. A whale. I'm a biology teacher. I should be able to draw a whale. Don't laugh.
That's the ocean. Oh, I know. It's whale.
There you are. She got it from me. And it's things like that, which is nice artwork. It's teaching younger children, and maybe older children, me particularly, because I like playing, to draw things. Again, another example. This particular one is a Google slideshow. And again, this is one teacher who was doing upside down painting, and he got the students to do it, and they had a little video when it loads up of how they were doing it. And basically they were sticking these things under the tables and getting the students to work upside down under the tables. And so it's just showing that there are lots of different ways you can use it. This was there's a video embedded into this as well, showing his students working. So on the art side of it, lots of different resources. We're going to go through a few of these. Some are just videos and so on. So business, for example, is just linked to YouTube videos. So straight away, we can explain how banks work, the stock market works, and so on. And if we go to careers, obviously there's a real push to get students into the workplace. So straight away, you can have a platform which links to careers. Now, if you imagine your students want to know, I want to find a job, I'll have a look on the college website, I'll have a look on the school website, because I know there's loads of career stuff on there. It brings them to it, and it starts to make it interactive for the students. They're not just going there for your lessons, it's their support platform. So rather than a learning platform, it's a total support area. Similar if we move down, I'm just going to go through a few more of these. You've got coding, for example, and these are just links to websites which do particular things. And a lot of these sites actually link into Google Classroom and to Google Resources. So when I click on them, and each one of these open resources will take me to those sites, I can click in and to basically log in with my Google account. I don't need to worry about passwords. And the next time I log in, it'll just take me straight into it. So it's not a case of having to remember lots of passwords all the time. Going down from there, this is the use of Google Drawings. And this Google Drawings one is a simple, basic one, which is just obviously shapes and names of shapes, so that the students will use the drawing that's shared between different students to drag in the shape and the name for it. The actual resource on this opens up to another Google site done by somebody else, but it's got a whole list of different activities and things that you can use Google Drawings for. And they also have other activities on there as well that you can use them for, not just these. So again, it's linking to other things. This is a particularly nice one. Even though I'm a science teacher, I used to do a lot of plans for extensions and renovations of properties and so on. So I love things like CAD systems. And one of the big issues people said to me before was, oh, you can't do CAD systems on a Chromebook, you can't do, but it's getting there very, very quickly. There are slimmed down versions, and there's more and more going online. This is something called also the Tinkercad, which basically you can do all sorts of 3D drawings. It's just loading up at the minute. And you can move these drawings round and look at the shapes and change the shapes of them. So you've got your work plane there, you've got your shapes on the side, you can drag them across, and once they're on the platform, you can change various features of them, and you can move them around and look at the tops of them, look at them back, bottoms, and so on, and play around with them, that sort of thing. So you get your 3D visuals of it. And again, that's just all this is. I like things that are free. I'm not from Yorkshire, but I'm quite close to there, so I'm tight-fisted. So I don't believe in paying for it unless it's really worth paying for. Similar down from there, if we look at other things, we're going to obviously with this is another thing you can use the platform for. These aren't my students, these are students, it's on YouTube, but these are students basic drama performances for their exams. And again, if you've got students who are demonstrating particular skills or particular things you want to share, they can be put on the platform. And remember, the nice thing about it is, because students have to log in to get to your platform, it's a safe, protected environment. It's not like you're just sticking anything from your students out on the internet. It's not like you're sticking your resources and your work you've created on the internet. It is there and safe. So these are videos just demonstrating what those students are doing. And clearly, it doesn't have to be a drama production. It could be in science, for example. I used to get my students to do a presentation on something that they found interesting in the news, some developments, etc., on genetics or whatever else. And they present that, and we video that, and we put that onto the platform as well. So younger students could see it, and other peers could see what was happening, the sort of things they were doing, and use it. The English one, I know we've got Patrick on here somewhere from Manchester, and I was supposed to be demonstrating this one. I'll quickly show this to him in a second. And this is Jamboard. A lot of people are saying, well, can you do a whiteboard when you do Google Meet? You can, in actual fact, do a whiteboard, and that's Jamboard, and I'll just show you how that works. This one, by the way, at the top, load of the flies, and it's a video quiz. So if I open that one, you'll see dead simple Google Slides, Google Forms, sorry, with a video embedded at the top for the students to then go through. They can watch the video. This works because I've created it for my lad who's in year 6 at the minute. So that's one of his pieces of work for his home study. Very easy. And the nice thing about that is it's there. Once created, doesn't have to be created again, and because it can be used again and again and again, as you know. So the Jamboard, I love Jamboard. It's brilliant. And the more you get used to it, the more confident you feel with it as well. We go into Jamboard. This is one I created for English. And what's nice about Jamboard compared to a lot of whiteboards is you can obviously change the backgrounds for a start. So you've got your background changes on there to make it look a bit more attractive. You could, for example, if I was teaching maths now, and this was a maths one, I could change it and put my grids on for my maths. So I could do a graph, for example, or whatever else I want. I'm just going to change it back to that one because I like that one. You've also got your pen that you can write on. So I can click my pen and change my colours on there and write on it. I can obviously do my eraser to get rid of bits and pieces. I'll tidy this up afterwards as well because I like to keep this nice and tidy. You've got your highlighters on there, etc. You can put your sticky notes on, which are brilliant because you can put your comments on. And what I do with a lot of my students when I'm teaching them online now, as a beginning to the actual training, I'll go through and I'll say to them, right, let's have some positives and some negatives. I'm a teacher. I'm not a technology person. I don't believe in using technology if it doesn't work. I'm not one of these people who thinks, right, we've got to move forward. We've all got to use it. So I'm very interested in people's views, positives and negatives, on how things are working. What bad experiences have they had? Because it's nice to be able to find a solution to that as well. So quite often I'll use the Jamboard and I'll just have one which is, I'll put a little side posted on the side, which will just say positives, for example. Let's get rid of that. And so I might have a positive there and a negative. So they've got to put all the positives in yellow, the negatives in green. This isn't the same as that one. This is a slightly different one, obviously, because this is Romeo and Juliet. But they do the positives and negatives. And straight away you can see from the colours, are they having issues or are they not having issues, and so on. And you can also obviously put your pictures in there as well. You can put your images into it, which you can search from anywhere or upload. And once you're talking about it, you can do your little toy with your little highlighter to highlight around things as well. A very useful little toy for playing with. The Jamboard, when you create one, by the way, gets saved in your Google Drive. So then you can manage it and do what you want with it. And the other advantage of Jamboard as well is you can actually go from one page to another. So this will flip from page 1 to page 2. Page 2 will be empty. You can have as many pages as you want on there, and you can have different students working on different pages and sharing things and collaborating on there. So let's pop back to what we were doing. So that's the Jamboard one. I'm going to pop down further down. The food one, I don't think I put it on. My wife started doing videos now on cooking. So I haven't put any of those on, I don't think. But what I have put on this one is, I put a Quizlet on there. And I'm sure you all know what Quizlet is now. I used to talk to people and they hadn't experienced Quizlet. Quizlet now, a lot of these platforms now are being pushed. And you can get awards. You can be a Quizlet expert and you get a badge for it and all this sort of thing, because they're all pushing their platforms. But I'm currently learning Spanish and I'm using Quizlet to go through all the key words all the time because I'm dyslexic. I'm terrible remembering words, but I use that embedded into my site. I can do it, click onto there, and we can start going through all the key terms. You do have other options as well. You can change it to matching. The matching one is one that my lads like playing because they've literally got to click on the ones that match together. I'm not even going to try this in a minute. I will do that. There we are. That's one. And it times you and you compete against each other. Again, it's a separate platform, but it's embedded into your Google site. I think it'll tell me to, I'm going to go on forever on that now. And the students will get used to going to that platform to use it. Popping down to this one, this is my favorite. This is massively underused resource. This Google Earth one is. Google Earth, as you know, I don't know if you know, it's been updated. I won't load it up now because it'll take a second or two to load up. But the quality on Google Earth is absolutely amazing. But not only do you get Google Earth, you get something Google Earth called Tour Builder. I'm just going to pop down to religious studies down here. And the Tour Builder, again, these are, I thought my lads are staying at home. I want to learn about religion as well. I'm a science teacher. I can teach the maths and the English, the science, but I want to learn about religion. How can I teach them? Dead easy. I find a video on religion and each one of the religions, and I do a little quiz under each one. So again, it's so easy to teach the kids and create resources for it. And again, it doesn't have to be kids, as I said, it can be any age. But this Tour Creator, I really love this. Tour Creator is basically built around and into Google Earth. And what you can do is you can go on a journey for wherever you want to go to and however you want to travel there. So this is one in Jerusalem. Now, you imagine students working on a particular topic. Maybe you've got students from lots of different countries. You're trying to get them to relax and interact with each other and so on. They could create a Google tour of where they've come from in life, where they lived before, where they live now, where they've traveled. If they're like me, I haven't traveled many places. It could be where I've even been on holiday or where I'd like to go, the countries I'd like to see. But the tour builder will go through. This shows the sort of Jerusalem area. And then when you move into the different sections, there we are. We've got this area here, which is, as it says there, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But once we move on to the next one, you'll see that you can also put into it little homes. So, for example, this whoever created this tour made this one. So if you click onto the little information one, it'll have a little pop-up. It'll tell you what that little bit is about. And you can do that for all of them. You can focus on anywhere, and you can put the hotspots in with little images and so on. Similar with this one. It'll tell you what it's all about as well. This is the Western Wall. So again, it doesn't have to be. People think, oh, if it's Earth, it's geography. It doesn't have to be, because it can be used for lots of different subjects. Similarly, learning languages, and I only found out about this through Duolingo. That's my Duolingo app on there. Duolingo's amazing. More people learning languages on Duolingo than there are in every state school in America, which is quite an amazing feat. But I didn't realize that you actually have 24/7 Spanish pages or sites on YouTube, and French and German and Arabic, etc. A little Quizlet there to play on. That's when I was doing my Spanish Quizlet. But all these are available. But of course, you can send students to YouTube, or go find that YouTube page. There's a YouTube video. There's something, and of course they get on with it, forgotten. You've got your platform. They can go to your platform, and you've tailored it to their particular needs. Just pop onto the science one at the bottom one here. Again, obviously science is mine. And this sort of thing is, and I changed this actual slideshow around here because somebody asked me about this before. Originally, I just copied the page as an image, but somebody said, "Can you make that bigger?" So imagine now this is my site, and I'm talking to my students. I want to just present something, and this is obviously Year 8 younger students. Right, what I want to do is I want you to have a quick look what we were talking about before. All I have to do is click on there, and it will maximize it up to the full size. And I can give my presentation to the students there on that particular topic. And then I can minimize it again. My students can also clearly do exactly the same as well. So when they come to this, straight away they see the front page that was on the board when I was talking to them at school, at college. And that was the one we're going over. Yep, I know where it is. And they're revisiting it again. And no longer is it just a PDF stuck on the website, a stationary slideshow on there or whatever it might be. It becomes much more interactive, and I'm going to pop up on there. Now, some of you have seen my Zig site, no, some of you haven't. This again was done in Google Sites, and I'm going to pop back again to the other one in a second. But on here, literally now, we've covered all of Key Stage 3 science. It doesn't all show on here because some are hidden at the minute. All GCSE, biology, chemistry, physics. But my students used to come along, and we got rid of Moodle by this stage, and we started using Google. I always had this dilemma. I love Moodle, but Google just worked better and looked better. And there were some benefits to Moodle in the way the quizzes worked, but when you looked at the benefits overall, the Google stuff, I had to put the Moodle to one side, unfortunately, and move to the Google side of things. And that was my choice, not dictated to me. It was just it worked better and it looked more visual. But I got to the stage with my students where they were working through the lessons. They would come in, they could see what the objectives were for the lesson. They had a slideshow to look at, which was I called the basics because it was the key basic materials that they needed. And obviously with slides, you can have your videos embedded into it as well. So again, it's an interactive one. If I find out, I don't there's any videos on this, but there we are. It's an interactive one because there's videos in there for them to watch as well. And then 2 types of assessments. And I won't go into them now. I know some people have seen these already, but the first one, which is the quizzes, multiple choice, 1-word answer, multiple answer, self-marking. So the students can literally go through the slides, do the quiz, and see how they're learning, how they're progressing. At the same time, there was a longer written one, which is this format here, which is, I'm just making sure this isn't a message from Stuart telling me something, like nobody can hear me anymore. That's all right, it's not. This is longer written ones. It's quite extensive, 6, 7, or 8 mark questions. And I can give feedback immediately because I put the actual feedback under there. I'll just show you anyway. As I said, I wasn't going to show you. I put the feedback under there. So the students will do the work. As you can see, 6 mark questions. They can write as much as they want in that one. And then once they submit, it will come to me, but it also comes back to them. And when it was created, I put under the feedback the exam marking criteria. So the students could then see what they'd done right, what they'd done wrong straight away. I could obviously then mark it also and give them feedback, but it meant the students were progressing through the platform at their own pace. And literally my students were a real mixed ability. We're in the middle of two big council estates. I had students who in one class, as I've told people before they came to me, were actually for one supply teacher, throwing chairs around the room, etc. This guy came to me to look after my class when I was in a meeting. The students came in, logged onto here, got on with it, and there wasn't a sound for an hour. He answered 2 questions from 2 students. And he left me a long screed about he couldn't believe they were the same students. And they were lower ability students. They came in, they got on with it because they knew where the materials were. They were using it at home as well. And students were flying ahead with it because they had that safe, familiar environment to work on. And that is exactly what you can create using this. That is, by the way, Google Sites as well. What else can you do with it? Well, obviously you've got your learning side of things, but you can also go to this intranet thing, which I said to you about before. So if I click on the intranet, this looks the same. Obviously it's not because I put intranet on the top. That's just so I remember it. I would recommend if you did use this, that you did maybe badge it up slightly differently. So you can see that it's different, but on here you can see that we have a staff room area, and this is only a very quick one. The one we used to have when I was doing it at school would have all our travel forms that we had to fill in and everything else as well, but this links to a Google Drive, so all the files in that Google Drive appear here straight away. So if I've got a teacher who's come along and I said to them, right, look at the finance documents, I don't have to go sharing it with them. I don't have to go and start saying, well, don't forget, it's in the shared drive, it's in the finance folder, it's the 3rd one down on the left, turn around 3 times, etc., etc. I can just say it's in the staff room, and they can go to the staff room, and there it is for them to open up. So all your vital documents can be there for them to use, the ones that you put on there. And remember, with the site, because of the privileges on there, only the people you want to be able to see it can see it. Similar with the site itself. Students wouldn't be able to see it. If they tried to access, it would just throw up a message. You don't have permission, please log in. And of course, they can't log in because they don't have access to that site in the first place. So things like a staff room is there. On this side here, we want to show a couple of other things. Google Chat, as you may know, is now open to the world, so you can invite people who are not in your group. And so if you have a Google Chat switched on there, and what Vitalize would like to do is have a communication between us and all our partner schools and colleges with things like chat, so we can have a quick support and a quick update of things we've found and so on. Similarly, if I click on this one, which is the shared drives, obviously we're Vitalize and I go around the country and we support schools and colleges, but I also work with AQA. I know some of you do know because I tell you about it a little bit, but I'm a senior advisor from AQA. And I basically monitor A-level biology coursework, and I go into so many schools and sixth form colleges where the duplication of work is just crazy. So what we're looking to put together is a sort of folder of shared resources where people, when they find something useful, can just pop it in there, and then all our partner schools and colleges can then have a look at what's there and maybe just share back again, and maybe reduce that workload so we don't have that repetition going on forever. But again, that is just in the intranet area, so students can't see that, they can't get to it. Arbor is the MIS, which is amazing MIS, which is a fantastic replacement to Sims, which I've always hated because I've struggled training people with Sims for a long time. Arbor is brilliant, and it's online as well. And on this side, what else can we do for our teachers? Well, obviously we've got this is a match of the previous one with the subject areas. So the subject areas on here could potentially be your department areas with department resources in there. But I've also put another page on for staff training. And as I said, it can be tailored to whatever you want. It can be tailored to such a level that it is bespoke to your school, your college, etc. And the nice thing is, yes, you may need a bit of support setting up, but once you're up and running with it, you can manage it so easily. That's the benefit of Google Sites. So for example, staff training here, maybe week 1, we're going to do a bit of G Suite training. Week 2, a bit on growth mindset. Week 3, a bit more Google stuff in there. There's a bit of a pattern there. And week 4, maybe behavior management. So as staff come in, straight away, you don't have to think, well, we're going to have to get somebody in to do some training on behavior management. The resources on YouTube, as you know, are absolutely amazing. And yes, you may have an expert in school in the behavior management who can do a bit of one-to-one support. I'm not saying that that's not good, but to get people into it to begin with, you have things like this where maybe you've got a behavior management video there, it's a YouTube video, and maybe a little form next to it. And what's nice with Google Forms, as I'm sure some of you know, if there's a quick form there, a quick quiz session, maybe 10, 15 questions, that could be just to make sure they've understood the key parts, and then maybe a little bit that says, what are you going to implement in your first one? But once they've completed that and submitted the form, they can also, because of these extensions and add-ons or the add-ons that you get for Google Forms, they can also automatically be awarded a certificate for completion. And that will come to their email saying they've completed that course, and that's evidence of their completion for their CPD. That's just automatic using Google, using YouTube and Google Forms together just to assess that person. Now, I could have embedded that in the top of a Google form as well. It's just how you want to use it. But lots of different ways of managing it, as I said, but it gets to the stage where, with this one, back to my VLE, it does become your first point of call, even for you. The Zigs, for example, they were on my lessons. I didn't have any other resources that I was using. I didn't have any other, these were my lesson plans. And initially we did have, because I was working with another guy at the school as well, we did have a bit of an issue initially explaining, convincing our head of science, because I was head of biology, that these were lesson plans, and he just couldn't, he wanted this paper, he wanted this documentation. But once he'd seen it in process and being used and how the students were interacting with it, his comment was, I can see what you're doing, I can see where you are, just get on with it, because it just worked and the students were so engaged in what they were doing. But it was just because of the fact they got used to going there, and they come into the class and they'd say, either a Google Classroom they'd ask me about, or the site, or Zigs, and they go, I'm on lesson such and such on Zigs, am I right to get on with the next one? And you had the weaker students going home quietly doing this. And I remember one little girl, she used to sit behind me at school, she said to me, you know, can I do this at home? And she'd said to me before that, don't expect me to do very well. She said, I love your lessons, but don't expect me to do very well because I'm not very bright. And she was a lovely girl. And she then asked me if she could go ahead by herself doing this. And she started working through. And she went from the tests that we were doing from bottom every single time. I used to cheat for her just to get her some marks. But she went from bottom to competing with one lad at the top. And it wasn't that she was thick, as she said. It was the fact that she was just struggled. She needed to move at her own pace. In the class, we were moving too fast for her. She couldn't keep up. So she was getting left behind. But suddenly she had a safe place to go to come back, to revisit, and then gradually to move on. And what was nice is she said to me, I've done the quiz. I didn't do very well. Is that bad? And I said, no, go back over the notes again. And she said, well, can I do the quiz again? And she'd do the quiz 2 or 3 times until she got to the stage where she understood what the information was about. And then she used the quest to then apply it afterwards. Similarly, I had a foster son here who was 15, came to us with no learning. And one funny story I'll tell you with him is he came along, and again, we went to Spain, which we may not be going to this year, when he first came to me. This is 3 years ago now. He'd done no learning. He was in special school and he was a real handful. And we went to Spain, and I said, each day you're going to do one of these lessons. And you can imagine, first of all, he was kicking off, but eventually he started doing it. And the quizzes, he didn't mind because you could guess them, but he was always doing badly. And then gradually over time, his marks went up and up and up. And I said to him after about a week, something like that, I said, you know, how come you're doing better? And he said, I'll let you into a secret. He said, if you read those slides and that basics thing, he said, all the answers are in there. And he suddenly realized that that's all you need to do to get the better marks. He got a level 3 in his science at the end of it. Not quite a GCSE grade 4, but for him that was absolutely amazing. But again, it was simply because he had somewhere to go. And I catch him sometimes just going on there and just doing a bit when he had a bit of free time. And it's like, what are you doing? Oh, I just want to get ahead. I want to get ahead. Or are you going to make me do another one? And he actually succeeded, and he enjoyed doing that because it wasn't a threat. A nice thing, obviously, I haven't got it on here, but you can obviously translate everything as well. So that is, I'm just going to stop there. That is a sort of summary of what it's all about and how it works. And if you're one of the people who think, oh, VLE, it's not a VLE, it's just a learning area. But the nice thing is you can adapt it and you can change it however you want. And what's nice with the interactive things is I didn't show you one on there, but there's one using Google drawings, things like that, to do all sorts of things, to do math things. Or on the demonstration one I showed you with the links to lots of other ones, there's maths ones on there to show you how to use math symbols, which you can't use as well, for example, in Google Forms and so on. But it's very easy to put together. It's not sort of one that's accessible totally. Oh, one more thing. There is one more thing I wanted to show you. I just realized. I'm just going to pop back again. A lot of these courses now do this thing where you have lesson 1, lesson 2. I do a lot of, because I'm a foster carer, I do the courses where I'm sort of working through, and just go to this teacher area. I'll put it on the intranet, I think. My problem is I put things somewhere and I forget where I put them. And what you have is, you have, there we are, courses which take you through a number of steps. So it might be lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. So just today I was playing around with this. If you look very closely, you'll be able to catch me out on little bits on this one, simply because of the fact I've duplicated 1 or 2 of the lessons when it does actually load up. Come on, load up. But what I've done, again, is a Google site. But as you know, when you look at these courses, you'll see down the left-hand side, lesson 1, lesson 2, like this, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, etc. So we have, first of all, an overview. So there's a little introductory video. This isn't an introductory video. This is one I've just put together for this demonstration to show people. So it might be that somebody, for example, if your college is starting to produce courses to basically sell as this is an online course, this course costs you so much to actually take, etc. It starts off with an overview, introductory video where you might be introducing what it's about. This one is obviously about disease prevention. I thought it's quite relevant at the minute. Lesson 1. A little video. This is one about vaccination. That video is about vaccination. This is one I created on Screencastify. I won't play it. That's just me going through a set of slides, explaining the slides in detail, what they're all about, etc. Objectives are there. A little bit of extra reading, background, further reading for the students. But there's an assessment on that one. Again, Google form for that. And that obviously will be recorded behind the scenes for the assessment. Lesson 2, same sort of thing, but this time on lesson 2, you've got a YouTube video. So it's not me talking. It's what I used to want to do, lots of these YouTube videos, because the animations and graphics are brilliant. But then I've realized, in actual fact, these guys are getting so good at doing these that mine are never going to be that good. And what teachers need to realize is what they do is quality in a different way. It may not be visually as appealing as the fantastic animations you get online, but they add that personal touch to it as well. So, is that somebody laughing at that? They add that personal touch to it as well. Again, video with a lesson assessment there, another quiz related to that video. Going through the third one down, again, this one is a Google Slides. So the same sort of thing, but I thought I'd embed Google Slides in this one. So the students would read through the slides on this one before their assessment, and then working down to the bottom, the final assessment. So they can literally work their way through. This will be, for example, a 5-hour course as an example. And then this might be a summary video. As you can see, it's the same video. I've just used it again, just as a demo one. And then the final assessment on there. And this final assessment will be the one that will link to a certificate through the app that you can add to Google Slides, and automatically they will be sent their certificate for completion of that course. So it's very, very easy to set up something that, and literally this took me probably about 20 minutes to put together. Admittedly, I've pinched bits of videos from different places. I've got them already and different slides. But for the actual format, I know somebody will be looking at it going, I can tell it took you 20 minutes, but it was just put together just to demonstrate the sort of things you can do and how professional it can look with the going through lesson by lesson sort of format. And again, that could be just linked from my Andrew Hartley's science page down here in my learning area platform. So this could have been the link to that particular learning resource, which will then certify my students as they're going through. So lots of different things you can do, lots of different ways you can use it, and it's totally customizable. So I will stop my sharing there, and I'll see if anybody has got any questions. I do have my little tab open here somewhere for questions. Right.
I think while I've still got it recording, there's one of the really good questions come through that we've not answered yet. We thought it's best if you answer it.
Yeah, sure.
That's come through, and it's how do you use the Google Sites in conjunction with Google Classroom, taking into consideration assessment, markbook, portfolio? How's the best way of working with them both at the same time?
Right, my students, initially I was just using Google Classroom as the main core sort of teaching and learning resource, and the Zigs was just there in the background. Now students started working through at their own pace, so they were working independently on the platform, But what I would then do is, when I wanted to assess the students, I would just go to Ziggs and I would pinch a particular resource across. So if, for example, they'd done the first lesson on antibiotics, and I wanted to assess them, maybe some had worked further through, and I'd say to them, right, we're going to pull you all back together again now. We're going to have a little bit of an assessment so I can just see where you all are. And I would just literally pinch the assessment from Ziggs and put it into Google Classroom and assign it to the students. So Ziggs ended up being, which the learning platform basically ended up being my resource bank as well. So I would use that. And obviously, students have to do longer writing tasks. Google Forms is quite good for long writing tasks, but more difficult to give individual feedback. So what I would do with that is, I would then, at a certain stage, usually when we came to the end of the topic, to the assessment stage, I would then say to them, right, we're going to do a written assessment now. And that written assessment would be, for example, on Google Classroom. So I would then assign it to them, and they may be writing me a page. If it's A-level, they could be writing me a 2.5-page essay on there. And that will be a summary of that topic. So a particular topic might have 8 lessons in there. When we come to the end of it, I would do an essay summary for them, and they would do the essay for me on there. So I used it interactively. The classroom was used as my first point of sort of communication and everything with the students. And the Ziggs site itself, the learning area, was used as their independent learning area, and also my resource bank as well. And every time I found new resources, they will go on there. Not in the main area, but as an extra area for the students to actually go to and use. Similar for the A-level biology, they have required practicals that they have to do. And that's what I go around and standardize around the country. So what I did on there was, again, I didn't produce the videos. There's loads on YouTube now, but I've got a video for each one of the required practicals and a quiz next to it as well. So after we'd done the practical, we worked to the end of the unit, I would assign that task from Ziggs via Classroom out to my students. So Classroom was my sort of communication and sort of drilling down sort of in-depth sort of analysis of what they were doing and the feedback to them that way around. And the two work. Sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll say, well, we don't need Google Sites, we've got Google Classroom. It's a totally different tool. If I have Google Classroom, my students will not be able to move ahead. I will be controlling where they are. And we're back to the ordinary classroom situation where I control, right, we're doing this task today, that's it at the end of that task. And you can put the resources in there, but if you put a lot of resources in which are sort of at the side resources, not main resources, it starts to get messy. Put it on a Google site, link your classroom to Google site as well, and to the students it then just becomes one place, but just a different page in the same place. And then they could do independent through the actual sites and work forward that way. So it's interactive sort of use. Does that answer that question?
It does. Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we'll move on to some more questions.
Brilliant.